Ladies and gentlemen, I am extremely pleased and very privileged to have on the phone a legend, and that is Jasper Carrott. Jasper, how are you?
Are you on your knees genuflecting?
I am curtsying as we speak.
Good. How are you, Lee? You okay?
I'm very good, thank you, sir. Now, you have an incredible career. I hope you don't mind me saying spanning 5 decades.
Yep.
That I suppose really started with the Boggery, the folk club in Birmingham.
That's absolutely correct. Yes, it was in 1969. In February, it was 50 years, sort of a bit of a celebration. It's not going anymore, obviously, but I started it in February '69, and that kicked the whole shebang off. I mean, it took a few years and a lot of experience and stuff. But yeah, I can look back, and I have to pinch myself sometimes. But it's been a wonderful career stroke life.
Now, that in that career stroke life, your comedy was of it sort of started out around then, really. This whole idea of sort of more observational comedy rather than standing there and just rattling off loads and loads of jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got your sort of the guys who were around at the same time, like Jethro, Billy Connolly, Max Boyce. All of you had this ability to look at life, look at things, and see the funny side of it, and then explain it all to the rest of us. We were aware that this was sort of a whole new trend in comedy, if you like.
I was pretty aware, yes. I mean, as you say, comedy up till the late 70s, I mean, on television, stand-up comedy was 7 minutes on the Cilla Black show.
Yeah.
And you talked about silly Irishmen and mother-in-laws and whatever. And all through the sort of, I started in '69, all for about the first 6 or 7 years, you were working folk clubs. And the problem with telling jokes is that everybody told them. So you had to develop your own stuff that nobody could copy. And that's when I started raconteuring. I was very influenced by American comedy, people that you may not know, Tom Lehrer, Shelley Berman, Bob Newhart, George Carlin to a point. Bill Cosby, of course, was an excellent stand-up. He's a bit in shame now, but he was a cracking stand-up. And I sort of took my lead from them and started to talk to audiences and not at them, which is what stand-up comedy was. And obviously, people like Billy Connolly and Max Boyce were also doing the same sort of things. I was very fortunate in the fact that I hit the screens in big time in 1978. And I had more or less television to myself in that genre because Billy couldn't do television because of his language, and Max was very regionalized. So I had it to myself, very fortunately. And that's what really established me with the audiences, certainly in this country, and then eventually all around the world.
Now, before that, we had the legendary Funky Moped. And the Magic Roundabout.
Magic Roundabout. I always tell people, Funky Moped sold 30,000 copies. Magic Roundabout sold 840,000 copies. So that's what got it into the charts. And believe it or not, Lee, I don't know whether you've checked this out, Magic Roundabout is still the only ever hit single with no musical content.
That's true, yes.
Yeah, and bizarrely, it was a disco hit.
Yes, it was.
Because DJs used to play it when they used to have a break and, have a coffee and go to the loo, and they used to play Magic Roundabout. And the audience used to listen, and they all wanted to buy it, and that's how it all kicked off.
Now, we used to play it, I must admit, at the end of a gig.
Yes.
Not because we wanted people to go, but because, it was a great way of ending the night.
Good. I've never worked that one out, but good.
No, they were absolute classics. I mean, along with that, and of course the insurance claims and
yes,
the other ones that you did.
Crikey, and then there's the Manchester United football game, and then there's the Lady Di routine and the mole routine.
Oh, the mole.
Nutter on the bus. What is wonderful is that people come up to me and talk, and it's wonderful being part of people's lives, because they listened to me when they were with their parents or when they were at college and university or whatever. And it's a real privilege to be able to talk to people and having, I wouldn't say influenced them, but having affected their lives, hopefully, in a positive way. So it's very flattering.
Yeah, The Mole is one of my all-time favourites. I've got to admit, I just love that. I can listen to it over and over again and visualise you sat there with a torch on your head and a shotgun in your hand.
And remarkably, so much of it was true.
No.
Yes, I literally got to know moles because we moved into a house and I didn't know what all the lumps of, the piles of earth were. I hadn't got a clue. And someone told me it was a mole, and I mean, as I said, if you found a mole in Birmingham, you'd eat it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that just fell out of my head, and it became like a real classic, I have to say.
Yes.
I don't do it anymore because people tend to know it too well, but. It was when I did it on television in 1970. I did it in 1979. It was what I became well known for, and then obviously a lot of other stuff came afterwards. When I look back, oh crikey, I've got God knows how many hours of material I've got, but it must be 20, 30 hours, I would think.
Now, the shows that you did on TV, Audience with Carrott and the unrecorded Jasper Carrott, Carrott's Lib, they were actually award-winning shows. I mean, I don't know how many people know that, but and also Montreux Festival as well. You did.
Yes, I made a program called Jasper Carrott's Commercial Breakdown, and we showed adverts from all over the world, which were funny, and it won a silver in Montreux for Best Independent. And it won a gold medal in New York for Best Comedy. So it was a very successful program, I have to say. It was made by my own company. That I was a big part of a company called Celador, and I was one of the major shareholders. And I started working for Celador. I came away from the BBC, started to work for Celador, and that was the first program. And I wasn't too keen on doing it because I just said, well, I don't particularly want to be a host, but it was my company, and they said, "Come on, if you've got your name to it, we've got a chance of selling it," and that's how it came about, and it was an enormous success. So what do I know? It was amazing.
Now the detectives.
Celador went on to make Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Well, that's a reasonably good show, isn't it?
It's been mildly successful.
Yeah.
And of course, they offered me the Chris Tarrant spot. And of course, I was in one of those, I'm a raconteur, I'm not a game show host, good heavens, no. Fortunately for Celador, I turned it down. And I say that because Chris Tarrant was so good. And there's no way I could have done the job that Chris Tarrant did.
Now, moving on to 1993, you were with Robert Powell doing The Detectives.
Yes, I've got the same initials as his favourite character.
Yes.
And, yes, he was Jesus Christ, and I brought him down to my level. And it was. I mean, we became blood brothers. Really, he is still one of my best and closest friends. I don't see a lot of him because he lives 120 mile away. But we hit it off straight away. And the great thing about Robert is that we'd always wanted to do something together for several years. And when this came along, he was the obvious choice. And the great thing he said is that the reason that he accepted it, because he was very big in those days, the reason he accepted it is because he didn't have to play the straight man. He could join in the comedy, which really sold it to him. And of course, I mean, when we first started, of course, he was this. I mean, he had two approaches to working, and that was cool and super cool. But when he realised I was, how you get you. I mean, he was sticking ferrets down his trousers in the end, just like that would get the laugh. And it was a strange combination, but very successful.
Yeah, I mean, people sort of looked. I must admit, I was one of those people. Looked at the combination of Robert Powell and Jasper Carrott and thought, no, that's never going to work.
No,
and it was so brilliant.
But it did, yeah. And Robert is. for me, he's one of the most underrated actors that we have in our country. I don't think he's ever really got his true deserves, because he is a superb actor. I've seen him do some work that really is just incredibly impressive, and I was very fortunate for him to get involved. And as I say, we were with it for 7 years, and we have 101 stories and we hoot with laughter every time we meet, and it's great because I don't see him, say, for 6-8 months, but we pick up straight away from where we left off. A remarkable friendship, and I have, funnily enough, one of the people that wrote The Detectives is a guy called Stephen Knight from Birmingham, and he created Peaky Blinders.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. I discovered Stephen in '89 when we did Carrot. He was writing for me then. I took him on with his partner, a bloke called Mike Whitehall, and they were with me for about 7 or 8 years. And of course, in that time also, just after that, they created Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So Stephen Knight has a very impressive CV when you think of the Carrot programs, but then Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Peaky Blinders.
Yeah,
doesn't come much better than that, does it, Jay?
Not at all. No, just that's
Lee,
pretty big.
Jay, Lee, yeah.
Oh, don't worry. I'll answer to anything.
Cut that out and redo it.
Back to front, the Mikado, All About Me, 24 Karat Gold, all these in the early part of the 2000s.
Yeah.
You were so busy.
Yeah, it was just, you get a reputation, a bit of a name, and people throw things at you like you can't believe. I mean, you mentioned there the Mikado. I was Coco in the Mikado for the D'Oyly Carte Opera Company. And we did it at the Savoy Theatre. I am actually officially a Savoyan, which means you played at the Savoy Theatre for the D'Oyly Carte Opera Company. And like all good Cocos, I could put people instantly to sleep. That was a Bob Monkhouse line, and he'd seen the show. Yeah, but people offered me all sorts of things, and I never worried too much about reputation or whatever. All I ever did was, did I have a fair chance of doing this? And most of it worked. Some of it didn't. All About Me, you mentioned, never really got off the ground. Again, Stephen Knight wrote that. But we never really got it off the ground. And sometimes, you look back and think, yeah, well, I would have done it differently, but too late.
Yeah. And the 24 Karat Gold recorded at Birmingham Arena.
Yeah.
72,000 people.
Yes, not in one night.
I'm going to say, but, it's not that big.
It was 14 nights. And... it was just probably. I realised it was going to be the pinnacle of my performing career. I realised that because the sales and I could have gone on for another 10 nights, but Justin Timberlake was in, and they couldn't shift it, so I just did the 14 and called it quits. But that was really the last time that I did. Like my full concert appearance where there was just me and nobody else.
Yeah.
And then after that, I left it alone for quite a number of years, doing lots of different things. And I got a bit sort of fed up with stand-up, to be honest, Lee, and gave it a rest. And I was going to give it a rest for about 18 months, and it lasted about 12 years. And then I came back a few years ago with a show called Stand Up and Rock, and I was with a group, and my best friend is Bev Bevan. He was the drummer in the Electric Light Orchestra, and we met at grammar school. We've been friends for 64 years now. And he just said to me, he said, "Well, if we're going to work together, we better do it now because we're running out of time." And he was so right. And so so we did Stand Up and Rock, and it does what it says on the tin. I do the stand-up. He's got a band. I get involved with the music at the end, and it's been remarkably successful. We've done nearly 300 shows.
Oh, I know.
And I rediscovered my love for stand-up, and I realised that because we were doing sort of 500-600 seaters.
Yeah.
and it was like going back to the beginning, and I was eyeball to eyeball with the audience, and all that thrill came back to me. Because when you work like a 10,000 seater, people have paid 25 quid for a ticket, but they're watching you on television.
Yeah.
They can't see you on stage very much, so they're looking at the screens, and you lose something. There's no two ways about it. You lose something. And when I started doing the 500,000 seaters, it all came back as to why I was in this business in the first place. And I've had the time of my life. I only do 2.5 hours now, not the 2.5 hours that I used to do in concert. And with the music, it's a fascinating evening, really. I mean, I'm not saying it's unique, but I don't know anybody else that does it. And audiences love the combination of having a really good laugh, some great music from the 60s, but the 70s and 80s, played by brilliant musicians and sang really well. And I get up at the end and cock things up with a bit of status quo, and I throw in 2 verses of Funky Moped, which people actually applaud now. They wouldn't have done that 45 years ago. And of course, it's a memory, and I started and I do 2 verses and then we're into another status quo. It's great fun, and I think we're all a bit long in the tooth on stage, but we're all reliving our teenage years, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, I know Bev, or I knew Bev way back when it was Carl Wayne in the Vikings.
Oh, wow. Blimey, Lee, you must be really old.
I am.
You must be over 50.
Well, yeah, and a bit.
Well, if you can remember Carl Wayne and the Vikings, I mean, they were like mid-60s.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Oh, right. Okay. Well, yes, of course, that was all my history. That's how I got into show business in the end, through being around the fringe of groups and then starting a folk club and stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, crikey, fancy you knowing all them.
I did then. Anyway, moving on very swiftly.
Yeah.
The OBE. In the
Yes.
New Year's Honours list in 2003. That must have been a huge sort of, just a great feeling.
It was. The great thing about it is that I knew nothing about it at all. It came out of the blue through the post, and I realised that a lot of people had done a lot of sort of writing in and getting support, and it was like. And I eventually realised how it had all come about, and it was mainly from the Birmingham, and of course it wasn't for. I didn't get it for comedy. Good God, no! I got it for charitable causes, and which was a real honour. And I always say it was. I love doing charity work. It's not that I'm that big-hearted. It's just that I enjoy it so much, and you meet wonderful people. And to get an award is almost like cheating, because it's all the other people that do the work, and I just go along and present. I present the van that they've raised 20 grand to buy, and I get all the glory. But it was indeed an honour. An OBE, of course, it's other buggers' efforts, as someone once said. Or old Brummy entertainer. There's millions of them. Millions, Lee. But you make them up.
Now, is it still? Are you still on tour with Alistair McGowan?
I do shows with Alistair, yes. That's apart from Stand Up and Rock, I do an evening shared, and Alistair and myself share the evening. We both do 2.5 hours. And it's lovely because it's all comedy. But the comedy is very different. When you're an impressionist, the comedy is very different from raconteuring. And Alistair is. He's so clever. I have to keep punching him. He took the piano up 4 years ago. Get this, he took the piano up 4 years ago, and last year he had a classical album that was in the charts for 8 weeks, #1 in the charts, 8 weeks. Classical pianist music. And he's been playing for 4 years. Yeah, you have to punch him.
Yes,
you have to. And he's a brilliant impersonator, of course, and a very clever man. And we get on very, very well. And
that's brilliant.
He does lots of different things, but he enjoys working with me, which is very flattering. And he got married to a lady called Charlie. And Charlie was, I worked with Charlie in the Mikado. She was an opera singer, and she was one of the three little girls from school. Three little girls from school, are we?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I knew Charlie really well. And so when he married her, it was all, I don't know, it was written in the stars, I'm sure.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, so what have you got planned for the rest of the year other than sort of trying to get a break?
Well, I'm doing stand-up and rock starting in September. I do about 10 or 11 dates. Then I go to America. I have two of my poor children live in America. And my daughter is an actress. And she was Dawn in The Office.
Oh, right. I didn't know.
Yeah, and now she's in this incredibly successful program called The Exciting Adventures of Sabrina. Remember Sabrina, the teenage witch?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Netflix and Warner Bros. Have revamped it. It's much darker now for a much older audience. And she's Sabrina's aunt. And she's in Vancouver, so we're going out to Vancouver to see her filming. And it's been incredibly successful. It's the number one show on Netflix, unbelievably.
I will watch
so
that.
she struck gold there. And then my son lives there. He's a personal trainer. So we're going over there to see them, and then we're back. And then I do nearly 20 dates with Alistair, which takes me up to Christmas.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, look, sir, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and give all my best to. I have many friends in Malaga, so give them all my best. Because habla español?
Sí, poquito,
Sí.
poquito.
Estoy aprendiendo español por 40 años. 40 años.
40 años.
Pero hablo español para la mesa. Sí, comida, bebida. Políticas, no.
No. Muy importante.
Despacio. Hey, have a great time, Lee.
And you, sir, and maybe we'll get you over here one day.
Look forward to it.
All right. Take care, sir. Thank you very much, Jasper.
Cheers, Lee. All the best, mate.
And you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.